Alex, I feel like it's been a while since we last chatted. If For those that don't know Alex, you've been on the channel talking about your fishing experience before. But if people are new to the channel, why don't you introduce yourself?
Hey guys, Alex, like he said, I've got a channel as well, Alex Roberts Fishing, where I put up tournament content, some pond stuff. Got some more stuff coming over the summer, some creek stuff, maybe some river stuff. We'll see what happens. But Johnny and I met over Facebook and have just kind of been speaking, fishing a little bit over the past couple months since I've been new to Tennessee. He's helped me kind of acclimate to the area and fishing Percy Priest. So really excited to be back on, man.
Yeah. Speaking of fishing Percy Priest, I fished a BFL last year and haven't done any tournaments this year yet. And I know you already fished in a handful. And so that's what we're going to focus on today, for the viewers that are interested in fishing in a Major League Fishing Bass Fishing League, right? I think is what it's called. And I'll bring up the website here in a little bit.
Yeah, so we had a tournament there April 23rd, which was about 3 weeks ago, 3.5 weeks ago. So the lake was different. We've had a number of hot days since then. So we've had a couple of working on about, what, 5 or 6 90-degree days at this point. So the lake has changed, which I think really changed the lake itself. The water temperature went up between 12 and 15 degrees, depending on where you were. That drastic of a change in that short of a timetable definitely changes things, obviously.
Yeah. All right, I had some technical difficulties, and so Alex is sharing the screen on his side. And Alex, what we're looking at is the BFL webpage, correct? And we're looking at can you show the viewers how to do the drop down just in case they wanted to see results for other tournaments to kind of get a feel.
Sure. So I'll go back to the main MLF page. This is what you go on. This is what you see when you go on MajorLeagueFishing.com. So this is the home screen. You see recently they've had a pro circuit event on Gunnersville, which Nick LeBrun won. Congrats to him. But to get to the Phoenix BFL or Bass Fishing League, you can either click on circuits over here or right here. So once you see this drop down, click on Phoenix Bass Fishing League, and this menu scroller right here is all the information you might need about any BFL anywhere. So there's a number of divisions, different areas of the country. We're going to pull up results to just see how we did. And we're going to select, you can look at past years. They've actually got really great data on stuff. So if you want to look at previous years and see what the winning weight has been, 2 years ago on Old Hickory or whatever, you can find that too. So that's a great part of the website. But we're going to look at Percy Priest, and it'll automatically pull up the boater side. We're going to scroll over to the co-angler side and look at the weights. Look at the results here. So you can see not many limits. We have 2 total on the co side, which is better than last time, but still not many. And sitting down here in 16th is myself. I weighed in 2 for 515, good enough for 16th place, and moved me up to 5th in the division overall. So really, really excited about that.
Yeah. How many co-anglers were there, Alex?
Let's see. So
It doesn't have numbers
looks
on.
like 68 weighed in a fish, and then a number zeroed. So probably another, I don't know, 40 or so. Well, there were actually 119 or 118 boats out there, so you do the math, and there were a number of non-boaters who zeroed.
Man. So you got to be pretty proud of yourself. I know, if people are new to this and looks at, oh man, I can't believe he only brought in 2 keepers and he got 16th place. I mean, it's tough, right, to get 5 keepers.
Yeah, it really is. Not only is it tough just in general, any lake you go to, but especially on Percy Priest right now, where we caught probably 10 to 12 fish. Let's see here. Probably caught 10 to 12 fish between the 2 of us, but we only had 4 keepers to show for it. So it was pretty consistent all day as far as catching fish, but getting something 15 inches or over was a challenge for both of us. I mean, I had the same amount of fish as my boater, and I actually weighed in more weight.
Oh
So.
wow. We were looking at the standings. It looks like you won around like $169. If someone wanted to like fish these tournaments, you feel like they're. I mean, I think being affordable to different people might mean differently. But do you remember how much it costs to like fish in this 1 day tournament, right?
Yeah, so you can just anybody can fish one of these. That's kind of the great thing about them, is that they're very open to just basically anybody. And the entry fee is $103 for a 1 day BFL. I think it's $100 and a $3 servicing fee, but it's $103, and the payouts depend on how many people fish it, obviously. So I think my 22nd place finish, that was more boats, and so I won more money.
Yeah.
But 16th place, less boats, I won a little bit less. So.
Huh. And it's a pretty long day. I know last time y'all fished there, y'all launched out of Fate Sanders, and I've been to that boat ramp, and I feel like it can kind of get jam packed. And I think they did some new parking stuff there. What time do you end up getting there, and what time do you end up like getting home?
So I got to the ramp about 4:45, which was a little early. I mean, I was just there I always want to be on time. I don't want to be a guy holding anybody up, whether that's just my boater or people in the parking lot, or, I don't want to be a reason that anybody has a negative experience. So got there about 5:45, and it was interesting this time you talk about the parking. So it was definitely an issue last time. Everybody who has done one of those knows that parking can be kind of a nightmare, all trying to get your boats in the water and whatnot. But this time my boater actually launched at a different ramp and just drove the boat over to avoid the craziness. So all I had to do was hook my stuff over to his boat and drop it in there. So it was pretty easy.
Yeah, you felt like that worked well?
Yeah, it did. I actually, pretty much no matter who I drew, I was going to suggest that we put in at a different ramp just to avoid the craziness. But it worked pretty well. We were the last flight in, boat number 112. So Dang. We were due in at 112 out of 118 or 119. But we were due in at 2:30. Weighed in and kind of got everything out of the boat by probably 3:15ish. So I could have left then, but I actually kind of waited around to watch the rest of the way in and wait for a check. So
nice. So it didn't sound like too bad. When you're like getting ready for the tournament, like the night prior, did you have like a specific game plan going on? Being it, I guess like mid-May, and you probably know that the water temperature is certain degrees, fish should be doing, be at certain spots. I'm assuming you took all that stuff into consideration, right, as you got tackle ready?
Yeah, of course. I mean, back when I first started fishing tournaments, I was really reliant on the boater to kind of tell me what we would be doing. Okay, should I have anything specific tied on? What are you doing? What are you throwing? But I've kind of gotten away from that as I've gained more experience, and I've kind of narrowed in on the things that I like, the things that are my confidence, like a wacky rig, a Texas rig, stuff like that I know I can get bid on, and that I know works this time of year. I mean, you said it, start there and figure out your confidence stuff. So really the only information I need from the boater is, are we fishing deep or are we fishing shallow?
Yeah.
So,
but regardless, I feel like with early morning, I feel like most people have some type of top water tied on. I know when we fish, you like throwing some top water. What was your top water go to for this tournament if you had one tied on?
Yeah, pretty much from mid-March until December, I'm going to have a top water tied on, and I'm going to make the first cast with the top water pretty much no matter what. For one thing, it's a good big fish bait. Early in the season, you will get a lot less bites, but if you do get one, it's probably going to be, a good one, a kicker. But I chose a popper and a spook for my two top waters for this to begin with. My boater actually weighed a fish in on a popper, so that was cool.
Yeah.
And I think I got a bite on it, but we got out there a little bit later than we would have wanted to for the shad spawn, so it wasn't quite as on as we wanted it to be.
Yeah. Did y'all stay like on the river section, or did y'all go towards the dam, a little bit deeper, clearer water?
We were mid-lake most of the time, so getting out and everybody blasting off, we kind of avoided our first spot because we figured that some people would probably be there. Pulled up mid-lake near Hamilton and fished some flat rock that we knew where there was some fish on there, and like I said, my boater ended up getting one there, so props to him. His name was Chris. Super nice guy, had a great time. Just a super enjoyable day. We laughed a lot and caught some fish, but started there and then kind of moved over into the Suggs area, Suggs Creek.
Yeah. And
fished some stuff back there. That's where we caught most of our fish was in the Suggs Creek area.
Nice. You talked a little bit about rocks in the Hamilton Creek area. I feel like when I'm around rock, I like to use like bottom baits, whether it's a crankbait or dragging a jig or Carolina rig around. Was that kind of your technique there?
Yeah, so like I said, we started the day off on top water, and by the time we rolled around, kind of that midday sun up, a little bit of wind, some depending on where you were. We went to those bottom baits, and I was throwing a wacky rig up real shallow, so we got a couple bites up really shallow. But when it's windy like that, and I've got 8-pound line and 10-pound fluoro, I'm probably not going to be throwing that in more than like 4 to 5 feet of water.
Yeah.
So. Um, as the day was earlier and we figured they'd be more shallow, I was talking my wacky rig. And as the day went on, I transitioned to a Texas rig with a 3/16 ounce weight, which I've got if you want to see it.
Yeah, what you got here? You said 3/16.
3/16 ounce weight. So this is a Torn Outdoors timber craw. Fantastic bait. But you can see the 3/16 ounce tungsten right there. And then a bobber stop right here. So you see I've got this tied up a few inches in front of the weight. And the reason I do that is I figure when the bait's down there on the bottom, if it's sitting, if I grab this and pull it up, if it's sitting there like that, there's more of a chance that this structure right here, this shape, will get stuck.
Yeah.
Because it's sort of joined, it's kind of locked together. Whereas if I give it a little bit of breathing room and that weight can slide a little bit, it may be down sitting there. This weight may be in the rocks, but the bait may be up here doing this thing. It may be just floating around. It's really more of a current kind of a technique variation on the Texas rig, but it worked great. It helps you hang up less, and it really helps me. So
Yeah, I've never done that before, and you're right. Fishing a Texas rig, especially out on Percy Priest around those rocks, it can get a little frustrating getting hung up. But if you don't have the lure down there, then I don't feel like you can get bit as much. So you got to have that bait on the bottom.
And another thing about that is using the lightest weight you possibly can. Obviously size is a big thing with that. Using tungsten improves. Obviously, you're not getting snagged, but that's another tip. Keeping it a few inches up, that bobber stop, really helps it stay free.
Nice. And you're throwing that on straight fluoro, or you throwing a leader or braid?
No, I throw it on straight fluoro. I believe that's 15-pound Seagar InvisX, which is the best fluorocarbon in my opinion. Throwing it on a 7'2" medium heavy with a 8.2 to 1 gear ratio, so super fast. In case sometimes when you're fishing a jig or a Texas rig, a bottom bait like that, the fish will pick it up and swim towards you. So with a higher gear ratio reel, you can catch up to them and get them a lot easier.
Yeah, that makes sense. I think another reason it also really helps out is I feel like there's a productive zone that you're casting to, and then once you get out of that productive zone, it's like good to reel in your bait, and that way you don't spend forever getting the bait. And I feel like time management is a big deal, especially with fishing tournaments.
Yeah, being efficient with your cast, especially behind and the back of the boat, being efficient with getting every cast, every high percentage area, anything your boater might have missed, especially when you're close quarters flipping, it's even more important. Getting that bait dipped in and out everywhere you need to, having it come back to you quickly actually does matter. So that's a good point.
What about crankbait? Did y'all ever get on that, or y'all kind of stay in like clearish water? Did y'all fish muddy waters? Did you kind of switch it up a little bit?
Most of the water we fished was pretty standard Percy Priest, 4 to 6 foot visibility. No real dirty water. We didn't go up lake, even though I love fishing that kind of stuff. That's where I'm a lot more comfortable. I threw square bill quite a bit, but we never got on a bite. They really were on a bottom bite kind of deal. We got a lot of bites doing that, so it didn't really make sense to pick up the square bill when I wasn't getting bit on it.
Yeah. And I feel like fishing, like power fishing, like a crankbait or a square bill, something like that, I feel like it can be difficult sometimes as a co-angler, because I don't feel like you have the right optimal angle. If you're up front, you control it, you can set it in, 3 to 5 feet and just make those parallel casts. But when you're in the back of the boat, I feel like your window there is kind of small, so.
Yeah, it does totally depend on that. And sometimes 45 into the bank is the way you get bit. I mean, I've caught my Dale Hollow tournament, it was my best tournament of the year. Now this one was, but caught all our fish on a crankbait there. So it's definitely not impossible, but sometimes bottom fishing is easier as a co-angler, which is why a shaky head, a wacky worm, a jig comes up a lot when you talk about being in the back of the boat.
Yeah. Speaking of wacky worms, do you go ahead and spend the money on the Yamamoto worms, or have you tried the Bass Pro or the Yum Dingers?
I've tried a number of different ones, and it kind of depends on the situation. So if I'm fishing like uber shallow, if I'm skipping docks, or if there's no real wind, something like a Yum Dinger, Bass Pro Shops, the Sticko, um, they're very light, so they don't sink as fast as other model or brand Sinkos do.
Yeah.
So if you're fishing shallow, Cinco is as good as anything else, right? But in a situation like this, where there's wind, where I'm fishing deeper than a foot sometimes,
Yeah.
I went with a Berkeley, the Power Bait
Oh yeah.
General. So it's not the max scent. I couldn't find those; they're kind of hard to find right now. But um, Berkeley Power Bait General in like a goat color, I think it was. It's sort of a mix of black and blue and green pumpkin, so it fits that water clarity really nicely.
Oh, gotcha. Do you know, switching gears to the boater side? I want to say like around 18 pounds one or something like that. Do you know how some of those guys that had the bigger bags caught them? Did you hear about them talking about it?
I didn't really ask around, honestly. I know that some guys I talked to got on a good topwater bite.
Oh man.
There were definitely some fish shallow and on shad spawns for sure. But I think this time of year you're going to find the fish in every phase. You're going to find some on bed. There's potential that the bigger fish that I caught was actually a bed fish, the way that it bit and sort of the area it was in. But I don't know. I don't know what the winning bag was caught on. Just say that.
Gotcha. So your the tail on your fish didn't look like they were too beat up, but you still thought they were on bed? Might have been on bed.
Well, the tail on one of them, when I actually got it in the boat, was slightly bloody, not super beat up, but just enough that my boater was like, "That might be a bedding fish," and I wasn't sure, but I mean, it could be very early. I mean, fish are in all the phases right now, so it could have been, could not have been.
Yeah, but I think that's what like is really great about fishing this time of year, right? It's like you got fish that are all those different phases, and so I especially think a lot of people like to fish shallow, and so in that first third of the creek or the back of the creek, up shallow, and so it's always fun to be able to fish this time of year if you can avoid the jet skis and wake boats and all that other good stuff.
Yes, certainly.
Did y'all run into that recreational traffic much?
There was a fair bit out there. I think when you got into Main Lake, there was a lot more with people, especially if you were ever around a marina. That's obviously going to be a hot spot for activity. But it wasn't too bad. Now, I've never been on Percy Priest at the high summertime, so I haven't seen it, at its worst. But it was pretty safe.
No, it's good to know. Is there anything you wish you'd done differently, or you felt like you made the right decisions, or had the right lures and all the good stuff?
When you sort of sent me the list of things we were going to talk about, I pondered this one, and I wasn't quite sure, because when you have a tough day like that where only two co-anglers have a limit and you get a top 20 finish, it's hard to think back and question yourself. But I think if I would have done anything different, it would have been maybe fishing deep a little bit more.
Yeah.
If anybody's watched the Pro Circuit event on Guntersville this past week, the deep fish are on right now. That first couple waves of deep schools are out there. And I know the Guntersville is a very different lake than Percy Priest, but that first wave of post spawners can sometimes be some incredible fish. So there's a little part of me that wishes we would have backed offshore to maybe some more channel swings, more mid lake, or more main lake, rather than just sticking in the back of the creeks.
Yeah. I know I want to say the tournament was on Saturday, last Saturday. I want to say I got fished that Friday morning, and I was trying to get on that shad spawn bite. I got out there like 5 o'clock, was headlining by 5:15 fishing the marinas. And it's so wild because the week prior I was able to catch some fish around the marina, but I had some wind and a little bit chop to the water. And I got out there this following week, and that area was just like dead, slick, calm, and I stayed in that area too long, didn't get any bites, and then started to go fishing some different water that had a little bit more chop, a little bit more wind, and just it's amazing how much your confidence changed. I still didn't catch anything. I mean, I caught like a catfish on a spinner bait, but but it's amazing how your confidence can change when when you got the right water clarity, the right chop, and all the other good stuff. Would you have
Absolutely.
to agree? I know as a co-angler, you don't have a whole lot to say about where you go or whatnot, but what do you think from a confidence perspective? Like when you see like, oh man, this is some good juicy water,
Absolutely, man. Confidence is very important because If you've got a good boater, and most of the guys who fish these things are not going to miss something,
Yeah.
they're not going to miss a cast. You're not going to get the first cast on, oh man, that rock right there looks so good.
Yeah.
You're not going to get the first cast on it. So being able to get past that, just the mental side of getting past that, like, oh, that disappointment of, well, I was looking at that stick, I wanted to flip on it, but now
Yeah.
I can't, having the confidence to try something else, to change it up, because you're not always going to be in that optimal water. And like we talked about before, boat positioning is the thing too. You're not always going to be in the optimal
Mhm.
boat position. So confidence is important, but if you think too much into it as far as getting that priority, the high percentage stuff, it can mess up your day for sure.
Cool. What kind of boat did your boater have?
It a Skeeter
Nice.
with 250 show Yamaha on it.
Man, I bet you that got down. I know I've been on one of those and really enjoyed it. A Skeeter.
Oh yeah, yeah, it rode good. Like I said, Chris, man, he was such a nice guy. We had a really great time. I haven't had a bad experience as a non-boater yet, and I've heard some stories definitely of some issues that have happened before on big tournaments like this. But so far, I've been really blessed with super nice guys.
Yeah, and you didn't get hit by another boater this time?
I did not. No issues. No. I was a little worried when that happened on my first BFL ever. And if you guys haven't seen that video, definitely check it out. For if nothing else, just to see the collision, which everyone was okay, but no issues since. So we're very thankful for that.
Nice. So, just overall standings perspective, how do you feel like you're stacking? How many more tournaments you have left?
So I believe there are two left. There's one coming up in June on Old Hickory, and then there's one in October on Old Hickory.
Oh,
So that's a lake I've only been on once. I know very little about it, except every time I talk to someone, they're like, "Oh man, it's tough. You only catch 13 inchers." Um, so as far as overall, I'm really glad I am where I am because I have a feeling that the next two are going to be tough, just like these last two have been. So
yeah.
feel really good about fifth place.
I want to say like after these two tournaments, there's probably like a big regional tournament like that or something like that, right? Isn't there like a big 2 day coming up after that? And I think you have to qualify to fish the second day.
So the regional is in October as well. It's on Pickwick, and the top 45, and then in addition to the winners of each tournament, automatically qualify for that. So I think it's a 2 day on Pickwick, which I'm about to be there this coming weekend. So that'll be fun. But I should be in good place to be there in October. So we're looking forward to that one too.
Nice. Do you know what? Is there another tournament after that 2 day, or is that basically the last one?
I think that's pretty much the last one as far as this divisional stuff goes. I think then you move up to the regionals and the super tournaments. Then again, it's my first year, and I don't know all of the ins and outs of the progression. So if I make it, then I guess I'll figure it out.
Dude, that'd be awesome, man. It'd be cool to kind of follow you along in the journey since I'm too lazy to get out there early in the morning and get out there and fish as a co-angler. You know, when it was on Percy Priest, I really wanted to fish as a boater, but I just knew 100 plus boats, man. That every point and creek that I wanted to get into would be packed, and so that's why I decided to just kind of sit it out and do a little fun fishing. So
absolutely, man. There's a lot of effort that goes into fishing tournaments like this, and to me, if you're out fishing and enjoying it, whether that's in a tournament with 200 boats or fishing a creek by yourself, as long as you're having fun, that's what fishing's all about. So
yeah. Well, don't want to make this video too long, but before we go, it's middle of May. As people find this video a week or two later, as they get into late May, early June, do you have any tips for them as they try to fish and catch a few? What do you think the fish should be doing?
Yeah, well, like I'm not an expert on Percy Priest for sure. I'm still learning the lake, but to think about the bass fishing textbook, most of the fish will be post-spawn summer mode by then.
Yeah.
We'll be having consistently hot days, and I guess in a rock lake, you're talking about 20 feet, something like that. That's where I would start at the deepest and kind of move up from there. Hopefully you'd have a topwater shad spawn bite in the morning, and then move to something deep like the hated ball and chain Carolina rig, or a jig is what I would rather throw. But something on the bottom, something deep. There will always be some fish shallow, and you can certainly find them almost anywhere, especially on an overcast day. But feel like in general the fish in Percy Priest live a little bit deeper because of the visibility and the structure.
Yeah. Well, I'm gonna have to give that deal a try one of these days when you're not fishing a tournament or fun fishing out of town. I know I was talking to Mike prior and thought about hitting you up to go to Cordell Hole this weekend, but it sounds like you'll be down at Pickwick, so we have to try for another day.
We'll see, man. I got the Alabama Bass Nation on Pickwick coming up this weekend. I have not had a good year on that circuit. I did great last year, but it just hasn't worked out this year. So hoping for a bounce back, and then after that, I've got a little more freedom, so we'll figure something out.
Nice. And one last plug for your fishing channel. I'm assuming you'll have a video recap, right? I don't think I've seen a video recap from a GoPro chest mount and all that good stuff, right, for the last tournament.
Yeah, so my Gunnersville tournament, my boater, out of respect for him, I didn't film a whole lot. He had a spot that he wanted to protect, which I'm totally fine with. I respect that, and I think it's important to do that as a co-angler. If you're planning on filming, always ask, because there may be something that someone wants to protect. Nowadays, people will find whatever you're on. They will certainly find it, especially on a place like Gunnersville. So it's been a little bit since I've uploaded, but in the next couple days, I'll definitely have this one up. I post on my Instagram pretty frequently. That's Alex Roberts Fishing. And my YouTube is the same thing. So there's tournament videos, pond videos. I try to do little breakdowns and tips for co-anglers as well on there. So, man, I had a great time talking to you again. And everybody check me out if you can.